Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ellison, you've opined that you see no antitrust violation here. Have your fellow state attorneys general, some of them expressed the opposite opinion?
Some of them have.
Thanks, sir. You said you drew this distinction between there being an agreement in restraint of trade or concert of action without an agreement. Let me ask this of another witness, one of the participants in the Climate Action 100 Plus. There's something I understand called a signatory handbook. Is that right, Mr. Bienvenu?
I'm not sure about a signatory handbook, but there are signatories.
There are signatories. You're aware there's signatories. Ms. Luber, right? There's signatories as a signatory handbook, isn't there?
There is a microphone, please.
Turn your microphone on, please, ma'am.
Sorry.
And so, look, in my long experience practicing law before I entered the public sector, signing something generally signified something. What do you understand signing to mean, Mr. Bienvenu?
As I understand it, one of the critical things at signing, it says that every decision that has been made and will be made is independently made. It is made in the best interests of those investors, whether that's investment decisions, proxy voting decisions, engagement decisions.
Signing, let me put it more simply, does signing indicate agreement?
No, it indicates that every investor will look at the financial implications of climate risk.
So they're signing to say they're not agreeing to anything, they're just, they're agreeing not to agree?
No,
is that what the signature's about?
They are agreeing to address and look at the financial risks and implication of climate change, whether it's the $93 billion cost to our global economy, to our U.S. economy last year, to look at it.
Ms. Luber, do you understand that agreements to restrain trade are unlawful?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Including an agreement to exert combined economic power to suppress output or increase prices. That's a cartel, right?
And that is absolutely not what Climate Action 100.
So your signers, your signatories are not agreeing to do that, right?
They are not agreeing. They are agreeing to look at climate risk. And each of them says, and the disclaimers in every piece of the material.
Do you seek output reductions of fossil fuels? You do not.
No, the first discussions that have taken place, number one, are disclosure of information. Our market does better when they understand that the insurance industry is pulling out many of our most important states.
Yes, ma'am. No, if we could just answer my questions for me. I understand the Climate Action 100 Plus was designed to harness the collective influence of those signers. Is that right?
To consider climate risk. Not to, each investor has said.
Just to consider it. Not to pressure anybody?
That's right. Each investor votes their own shares, has their own conversations, and needs to. I'm sure CalPERS has 100 staff that are advising their investment office. They are looking at independently, and they are not looking at what somebody else does.
According to the Climate Action 100 Plus work plan, what I read is that Climate Action 100 Plus was, quote, designed to harness the collective influence of its investor members in order to spur companies on the Climate Action 100 focus list of 170 disfavored companies to accelerate their emissions reductions. Is that right?
If there's a financial risk to those emissions reductions, that's right. Everything about the analysis of companies and investors is about, is there a financial risk?
So, okay, but it further says that the initiative's goal is for, quote, all companies on the focus list to have committed to net zero or gone out of business as investors are no longer providing them with capital.
Yeah,
that sounds coercive to me. Does it sound coercive to you?
It does not sound coercive.
You ever heard the phrase in the movies, it's a nice little business to be ashamed if something were to happen to it? Isn't that kind of the same thing?
In fact, it is the opposite. The requests of the investors of companies is more disclosure, is adequate, appropriate information for consumers, for people investing.
How many companies have left the Climate Action 100 Plus in the past 6 months?
I'm sorry, how many companies?
How many companies have left?
I believe about a dozen. I don't have the exact number.
Ms. Lamb, you wrote an update to your investors on January 2021, didn't you? It says, The 117th Congress is the most diverse yet. Equality is on the investor and corporate agenda, and the Black Lives Matter movement defined 2020 alongside a global pandemic. And here we are facing a second civil war, this one cultural, led by a pro-white, pro-Christian agenda. In other words, make America great again. Did you write those words?
That was a newsletter I wrote following the violent insurrection on the Capitol.
Do you think we're facing a civil war?
The context of that writing was around culture.
Do you think we're facing a civil war, ma'am? Will you answer that question?
From my perspective, we are pro-equality, pro-diversity, pro-religious freedom.
So you won't answer my question whether you think we're
I'm
facing.
sorry, what I was describing in that piece, reacting
I'll ask you
to
one
the
more
current-
time, ma'am.
Reacting to the current events was around culture.
Do you think we're facing a civil war?
I don't think we're facing a civil war.
Thank you, ma'am. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize the gentlelady from